Get a mirrorless or DSLR camera for streaming, but you can't quite figure out the best settings for the best picture? Stick around. I might be able to help. Hey guys, what's up? Adam here. I'll quickly go over the 3 settings in the camera that are really going to affect the video quality. I'll also do a few different demonstrations of how the different settings will make the video look, so that way you can see for yourself kind of where you want to get your settings set to. If you find the video useful, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. If you have any feedback, by all means feel free to leave them in the comments. Give you a quick rundown of my setup. I am using the Canon M200. I do believe it's the least expensive mirrorless camera you can get that has clean HDMI. It seems to be working fine for me. So I do have 2 Elgato key lights in the corner of my desk, my 2 beam lights, and then this garbage thing in the corner that cost way too much money that isn't very bright at all. So now make sure to set your camera to manual mode so you are able to change all of these settings. Alright, so your 3 main settings in the camera are going to be your aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Also keep in mind that the lens you're using is going to make a really big difference. This is just the lens that came with the camera. I don't have any fancy lenses to put on my camera, so this is what I'm going with. So the aperture is going to be how much light is allowed into the camera to get onto the sensor. Let's see if we can get this thing to focus here. So your aperture is going to be indicated by the number with an F in front of it. Some lenses allow for smaller apertures. The smaller aperture, the more open the lens is to allow more light into it, which is also what gives you the really nice background blur. The lower the aperture, the wider it's open, the more background blur you're going to get. Shutter speed is another setting that determines how much light is allowed onto the sensor. For this one, it's going to be real basic. Chances are you're probably streaming at 60 frames per second. So just go ahead and set that one to 60. Some cameras will be, you'll see like a 1/60. So just set it to that and you'll be good to go. And so lastly, you have ISO. ISO basically just digitally brightens your picture. You want to keep the ISO level down. Because too high of an ISO will start to make your video grainy, and we definitely want to stay away from that. The settings my camera are on now I've actually been using for a little while, and I'm looking at them and I don't quite know why they are where they are. My shutter speed is actually 1 out of 125, which is double what it should be. My aperture is right where it should be. It's at 3.5, which is as low as it goes for this camera. My ISO is sitting at 640, a little bit higher than I want it to be. My main key light is sitting at 70%. My other one's sitting at 50%. So it honestly doesn't look super bad with this one. But next I'm going to go ahead and give you an example of what it's like if your ISO is way too bright and your other settings are off. So for this one, I changed 2 settings. I changed the aperture from 3.5 to 11, which greatly darkened the picture, but I also changed the ISO from 640 to 6400, which in turn greatly brightens the picture. But you'll also notice that there's a ton of grain within the video itself. And also notice, since we closed the aperture quite a bit, we don't really have much of a background blur anymore. It's all pretty clear. I'll show you real quick what would have happened if the only thing I had changed was the ISO. So I'll put the aperture back to 3.5. It's bright. It's very bright. And now I'll show you what my settings should have been from the start. Ah, yes. There we go. Much better. Shutter speed set to 1 out of 60. Aperture set as low as it can go on this lens, 3.5. ISO I have set to 400. And as you can see, we've got the nice blurry background back, and picture quality looks great, no graininess. So those are the settings I recommend. Lowest possible aperture you can go, which means, remember, the widest the lens will open. ISO at about 400, and that 1 out of 60 on the shutter speed. Thanks for checking out the video. I greatly appreciate it. I'll catch you next time.